Hello and welcome to the 4LadsHadADream podcast. I'm Chris Jack of the Herald and Evening Times, and we are joined today for the second time for part two of this Rangers story by 9-in-a-row hero, Hall of Famer and former Rangers manager Stuart McCall. Stuart, how are we?
Good, Chris, thank you very much.
Oh, always great to have you on. Really enjoyed the chat in the first half of the show, and my colleague and sidekick on the podcast, as always, is Mr. Stevie Clifford. Stevie, how are we?
I'm good, Chris. Looking forward to this. First part, as you said, was really good with Stuart, so I'm looking forward to hearing about this.
Stuart, we rounded off part one by talking about your Sheffield United time, and also that was your first step into a proper coaching job, but it wasn't your first time in the dugout. That happened during your time at Bradford. And the guy in the opposite dugout for your very first game was a certain Walter Smith. Talk us through that one.
It certainly was, that's right, yeah. I think it was Chris Hutchins who'd been sacked at Bradford winning the Premiership, and I got asked, because I was assistant manager at the time, if I would take on the role until they got a manager in, which ended up being Jim Jeffries. Anyway, the first game up was the Gaffer's Everton, that's right, yeah, and I was playing at the time, and we played, and it was obviously my old team, Everton, the Gaffer and Archie on the other side, and I remember Gary Naismith, who was at Hearts, played for Scotland as well, scoring really deep into the game, 1-0. And I remember afterwards, the Gaffer and Archie have a glass of wine afterwards, or a beer, and Walter telling me, I see you keep to playing, this management likes not as easy as he made it look. So yeah, it was. To be honest, if I was going to get beat by anyone, it would be. If it would be Everton, and it certainly would be by the Gaffer. So, yeah, it was quite weird actually being in the manager's office after the game. Being up against the Gaffer, and nearly nicked a point, but as I say, we Naismith scored later on to give him a 1-0 win.
In terms of managerial and coaching, guys that you learned from, also you take a lot from Walter and Archie Knox, having seen them during your time at Rangers. You go to Sheffield United, and how big an influence does Neil Warnock become on you in terms of your coaching aspirations and your managerial aspirations? So a guy hugely experienced and quite a character, I'm guessing as well.
Yeah, certainly so. I've got to be honest, again, I didn't know too much about Neil. He'd managed in the lower levels. I'd been up in Scotland for a lot of the time. And I was 38 as a player leaving, and I drove down from Leeds to Sheffield. It's a matter of 45 minutes. And on the way down, I made a couple of calls to ask, people about Neil. And the 4 people said to me, says, listen, it won't be your cup of tea. It won't be my cup of tea. He's a bit hot-headed. It's this, he's that, whatever. And when I got to Sheffield, I thought, I'd always made my mind up almost. This doesn't sound great. But when I got there and I met him, I thought, you've got to take people on face value, and he's bring me there to play, and then we ended up getting as I said, I went on to play 80 odd games for Sheffield United. He did things differently. He always said his time, the best time for him, or when he shone was before the game and at half time. When he thinks he wasn't a great tactician, Neil. He wasn't. It let me. Later on when I became assistant manager, he would sometimes stay down south until maybe even the Thursday. He'd let me train him Monday, Tuesday, which for my development was fantastic. And he'd let me do, a lot of things in coaching. So on that part of it was great. It was the sort of man management side, if you like. He would try to demand and get every last bit out of the players. And people that I spoke to who played under him, 5 and 10 years before, and now we're playing for him. People like Craig Short, so it certainly started to mellow, and it calmed a little bit. But no, it was certainly different to anything that I'd come across in the way he went about things. Quirky at times, but I certainly learned a lot of positive things, and it was certainly an experience playing under him and then managing him alongside him. Yeah.
When you then finally get the chance to be a manager in your own right, it's probably only one place it was ever going to begin for you. Now you go back to Bradford once again. Was there a trepidation taken over, considering where the club were and how things had been going for them, and not the easiest time to go back in there?
No, listen, when you look back at it, the number of people that said to me it wouldn't be the right decision, but I let my heart rule my head, because we at Sheffield United at that stage, we were in the Premier League. and I was assistant to Neil. And the last game of the season went down. I don't know if you remember the old Tevez saga that he played for 3 clubs. He scored the winning goal for West Ham at Manchester United, and we got beat at home to Wigan. I think if we only needed a point to stay up in the Premier League. But prior to that, a month before, I'd got a call from Bradford's sort of chairman asking me would I be interested at the end of the season. They were in Division 1 at that stage, but they were going down. They were getting relegated to the bottom tier. And I thinking, well, I'm at a Premier League club here. Do I want to go down to the bottom tier? Anyway, as it transpired, Sheffield United get relegated, and also Bradford get relegated. But Neil gets sacked, and I think it was Brian Robson who came in. So it was time to me to move on. Although got told before Neil got sacked, that there would have been an opportunity. I had an interview. They would have maybe probably kept me on in the staff in some capacity. But I looked at it. It was sort of, I got sort of pleaded with, would I come please and help? The club had just gone down to bottom, and I said in my heart, ruled my head, do I look back and regret it? No. I knew it was difficult times, but it got me cutting my teeth, and it certainly was difficult. I'd gone from, as I say, playing or coaching Premier League players to coming to the bottom tier. Didn't know the standard, didn't know any players. And it took a while to get to grips with it, but I still enjoyed some good moments.
You do have a couple of seasons at Bradford, and they're really difficult and trying times. How much did that kind of shape your managerial outlook? And if you're going to go in and you're going to learn on the job, that's a really difficult place to go in and do it. But do you feel that experience then stood you in good stead for what then followed later on in your managerial life?
Well, it certainly did, because I remember in the a couple of seasons down there at Bradford, we were up against, I think, Paul Lambert at Wickham, Paul Ince at MK Dons, Darren Ferguson at Peterborough, and they all had the squads and budgets that we couldn't even get anywhere near. So you had to learn then to sort of try to get the best. I never one that would squibble or moan about a budget. If you got a budget, that's your budget. You get on with it. You deal with it. So that was the case, and yeah, you're going in for players that you can't afford, and the other teams are going to take them. But the assets for me for a manager are 2 things: your recruitment, which is huge, although that's probably going out of it a little bit now with director of footballs and all this. But certainly your man management, and I think my thing is life, you've got to try to get the best out of what you've got, no matter what it is. You can't moan and worry about it. Just do the best. Yeah, there's lots of times in my managerial career I've lost some good players that I've targeted because of money. We just didn't have the money, and they've gone on to be really top players. But that's what it is. So I think at Bradford, it learned me to say, don't get kind about it. Get on. This is the circumstances. Deal with it, and do your maximum as a person, as a manager, as a leader, to get the best out of what you've got. So in that regard, and obviously going into my second job at Motherwell, that held me. It got me really ready for it.
You mentioned Motherwell there. It's December 2010 when you come back up the road. You succeed Craig Brown as Motherwell manager, and you go on there to have some really great times, also some lofty league finishes, some great European nights as well. How would you reflect on that time there? And also, when it comes to your decision to leave Motherwell, I know you said at the time you felt it was the right time. Is there any kind of regret and thinking, well, you can maybe have stayed on? Because I think there was a feeling amongst the fans and certainly amongst the press boys that nobody really expected you to go at that time, considering how well you'd done over the previous couple of seasons.
Yeah, well, I've got to be honest. I mean, the Motherwell thing came about. I got a call. I wasn't actively looking for work when I came out of Bradford, because it sort of hit me a little bit, how difficult management is. And at that stage, I think only 50% of the managers that managed first time and not really, succeeded, never got another job. But anyway, cut a long story short, an agent rang me up and asked me if I would be interested in going speaking to Motherwell. Well, it was, I think it was 16th of December, it was actually. And I'd never had an interview in my life. And I was actually going up to Glasgow to deliver Christmas presents, believe it or not. So I said, yeah, I'll go up. Never give it a thought about managing Scotland or anything like that. Didn't know a great deal about Motherwell, obviously, unless when I used to play against them. But I knew Craig and Archie had moved on to Aberdeen. So I went up, had a chat, went really well, and I came back. I was a 16. I think they get beat against Hearts, and then they played Rangers on Boxing Day on the 26th. And I remember watching that, and Rangers won at Fir Park 2-1. Because it was the first time I'd watched the game, not sure if I wanted Rangers to win it or not, because I thought if I'm going into Motherwell as manager, or if I'm going to get a chance of going to Motherwell manager, you know, I think Motherwell were 5th or 6th at the time, and you know, their idea was to try to get in the top 6. Anyway, I got a call the day after that saying they'd like me to go up, and I went up, and I signed on the day. They actually went to Celtic Park and got beat 1-0 against Celtic, and you know, so they'd lost during the bounce when I went in. And my debut game was a derby against Hamilton, which drew 0-0, which was a really dreadful game. But yeah, so that was the start of it. I think the two things I got told when I went in at Motherwell was, and I was just grateful to be in the game and getting a second opportunity at you know, a Scottish Premiership club. So was to try to finish in the top 6, sneak a top 6 because we didn't have a top 6 budget, and sell a player each year. Well, inside my first month or first week, Mark Reynolds left for Sheffield Wednesday. He was an integral part of the team. Top goal scorer was on loan, left, went back to Blackburn, and it was a struggle. But we managed to reach in the first, you know, the 4 months to the end of the season. We managed to finish 6th, which you know was what was asked for, to try to get in the top 6 before the split. But we reached the Scottish Cup final, which was the first time for Motherwell in 20 years. So that gave us a good base to build on. I inherited some good professionals, your Lasleys and Hamills and Cragans and the like. Got the Scottish Cup final. Unfortunately, Celtic got 3 lucky goals against us and we got beat. But to get there was fantastic, and it built us up for the seasons after. But the memo was still the same. You know, the next season, you know, for us to finish 6th, we were punching above his weight. So to go that season and finish 3rd, you know, was unbelievable, really. And then the season after, to go and finish 2nd. And by the, you know, at that stage, Hearts had still had a really good side. Dundee United had a top side. Hibs was still up in that, you know, decent squads. Rangers and Celtic at the time, obviously Rangers came out of it, you know, the season after. So to do that was beyond any wildest of dreams, you know, for Motherwell to run out to Champions League football. But then going to the one season, we lost 7 first-team players. You know, and I know people lose 2 and 3 players. We lost 7 regulars. The Darren Randolphs and Higdens and the Yarmers and Laws and Murphys, Hateleys and Humphreys. And, you know, the time was probably to go. I got so many people telling me, you can't do any more. You can't do any more with Motherwell now. You're losing all your team. And I went down and, you know, spoke to Sheffield United. Motherwell gave me an opportunity to go speak to them. I spoke to them. They offered me the job in the Championship. Bear in mind, I had 5 great seasons there. But for different reasons, you know, I still felt a real sense of loyalty to Motherwell because they'd given me the opportunity. You know, could I just cut short run then when the team had broken up? Or was it a big challenge to try to build a new one and try to do better in the cup competitions? I could still work for Scotland while working at Motherwell. I couldn't do it for Sheffield United if I was down at Sheffield United. And maybe the budget at Sheffield United wasn't going to be as big or hopefully as strong to challenge. So, against all odds and against everyone's sort of wishes, not wishes really, but advice, you know, I stayed on, and, you know, we'd lost all the, you know, our top players, and, you know, we brought the points tally the year before in Premier League, got 62 points. That season we got 63. So this season going into it, it was a case of we're really going to have to do his best and get the best out of him to finish in the top 6. But can we, you know, at that time, I think the likes of Kilmarnock and St Johnstone were getting the cup finals and winning cup finals, and was it Ross County or Inverness? And you know, I thought, well, why can't Motherwell do it? Unfortunately, we couldn't. But that season, which we didn't have anything like the side we had the previous 2 seasons, we ended up, you know, with 70 points, which, you know, and I think how it happened, to beat Aberdeen the last game of the season with almost the last kick of the ball from a player who was on £1 a week, probably epitomised my time at Motherwell, as in getting the best out of what we had. And as I said, to finish top 6, we were punching above his weight. But to finish 3rd, second, and I probably, again, with my Rangers background, probably the best moments, obviously, other than the European getting to Europe. We beat Rangers twice. We never beat Rangers once. We beat Celtic twice at home in the same season. and then we beat them again in another season. So to beat their side, and they had a top side at that time as well, 3 times, was some achievement. And I always get a little bit of stick, now that, well, it's funny how you never managed to beat Rangers. But I always remember we once took a point off Rangers 0-0 at Ibrox. But, everyone used to think I used to get my players to try harder than I did against Celtic. Now, obviously that's nonsense. But, it was nice to play a part in one season that, managed the Rangers to win the league when we managed to beat Celtic. But, unbelievable memories. And then going into the last season, when I left, I'd had 3.5 myself, and Kenny, who played a huge part in it as well. I'd say the football club was so successful, and let's say for them 3 or 4 years, it was great moments. I think it's the last time they'd ever been in Europe. So to then start the next season, we got knocked out of Europe, but I think in the first we'd only won 2 out of 11 league games, and I just felt sometimes you have a life where I'm saying the same things to the same players and trying to get them to respond, and I just felt for the good for Motherwell as much as myself. It was time to just to leave and let somebody else come in with fresh ideas and a fresh impetus to get the team going again. And there was times before I could have left. I probably could have doubled my wages at Sheffield United, and I stayed loyal to Motherwell, which I don't know a lot of people really know that. But when it came to it, I just felt it was not only the right decision for me, but probably just as important, the right decision for Motherwell. And I remember speaking to Flo, Alan Burrows there, who was a fantastic guy, and he did everything he could to try to talk me out of it. But I just felt I didn't have any answers anymore. And I think as a manager, when you get to that stage, no good trying to carry on. And, there was talk about somebody going in at Motherwell, a new owner, and if a new owner comes in, there'll be a new manager and you'll get paid off. But I wasn't in it for that. I took the decision to step down, to somebody else come in and do a better job, because that, the first part of that last season was disappointing compared to what we'd done. And, the only aim would then be to try to get a top 6. But when you finish second and third, that's not an ambition anymore. So I just felt it was the right time to leave. After, like I say, 3.5, 4 brilliant seasons. Loved my time at the club.
You mentioned the Scotland job there, Stuart. We didn't really touch on your international time during part 1, talking about your playing career. Perhaps just to sum up your Scotland playing career and your Scotland coaching career. You also went in there under Gordon, and again, a frustrating one, or some good times, but not as also not achieving what you set out to achieve in terms of getting Scotland back to the major finals that you played at as a junior playing days.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, going back to my playing career, I made my debut. It was late on, actually. I think it was 26, and I made my debut against the World Cup holder at the time, Argentina, sold out Hampden. And I remember knocking the ball down for another debut in Stuart McCall to win 1-0, and he couldn't have had a better start. To again another dream fulfilled, to play at Hampden, to play for Scotland in front of a full house, and to beat the World Cup champions, or the World Cup holders at the time, Argentina, 1-0 was incredible. And then to go on and obviously play in Italia 90, I managed to get my one and only goal in that game. Again, I'm always deadly from a yard. I think I scored it with my 3 studs. But and as I said, the family, once you've scored in a World Cup, you don't want to bother scoring all these Mickey Mouse qualifying games. So I only scored 1 goal in 40, but it was at the World Cup, so that's my excuse. But then again, to go on and play 92 and 96, to be the only Scottish player to play every minute of every game in all them tournaments makes me proud as well. All 9 games. Disappointingly missed out not going to World Cup in 98, but I'd been out of the game with my knee for 11 months. So that was that. But then to get a call out of the blue to go and meet Gordon and Mark McGee at a place in Glasgow was, I didn't know Gordon. I respect him as a player and as a manager, and what he'd done, for the country, and where he went about, as in how he played and performed for Scotland. And then he came down obviously to Leeds United, played against him in the Champions League games. But I'd never met him personally. I didn't know him, and for him to ask me to go and be part of the coaching staff was a great honour. And again, learned so much about him. Not even just on the training ground, but just sitting discussing football. He's a huge football manager, and his ideas on the game. So Yeah, I learned so much from Gordon regarding he loved it. As Neil didn't mind being, or didn't really want to, Neil wasn't keen on being on a training ground. Gordon loved to be on a training ground. You could learn so much from him. So yeah, and as you say, we had some decent high times. We beating the Republic at home, and having some other really good results, but we just couldn't manage to get to the one of the tournaments which we so dearly wanted to do, unfortunately.
3 months after leaving Motherwell, you become Rangers manager. I think you said at the time, I can remember speaking to you at the time, saying that you weren't in the market, you weren't looking, you didn't have your eye on the Rangers job as the things were unfolding with Coisty in the weeks and months before. How did you find the club that you walked into and the situation you walked into? Was it mixed feelings? Because I'm assuming the chance to be Rangers manager, a lifelong ambition, a dream come true, but you walk in at a really difficult time for the club.
Yeah, listen, I think first and foremost, I've heard things over the years which are absolutely ludicrous, some from a couple of Motherwell supporters as well, which, I find astonishing, that if anyone thinks I actually left Motherwell so that one day I would become Rangers manager, couldn't be further from the truth. I never thought for 1 second, never even give it a dream or a thought that I would ever become, Rangers manager. So that was nonsense. I left Motherwell because it was the right time to leave Motherwell for them, and I thought I would probably end up going back down to England. And especially after the CV I had at Motherwell, I probably, could have gone and had a couple of opportunities to go back to England. But I was doing the Rangers games because I was working for the TV, and I was seeing Coisty regular after games, and I felt for him because I knew everything he was going through there, and it was so difficult times. But then obviously he ends up leaving, and then I think John Gilligan, Paul Murray, and Dave King come in, and I never give it a second thought, and I knew Kenny was there. Kenny McDowell, and obviously didn't really want to be there. Obviously wanted to follow his pal out and fell loyalty to Coisty, but he had to stay on and hold the reins, if you like. But I got a call one night, completely out of the blue, from Goffey. It was after the Rangers had got drew away at Cowdenbeath 0-0. I think that was the first game of the new board, really. And he just asked me what we're doing, and then he just said, would I contemplate, give it a thought of, trying to help Rangers out and going into the end of the season, or what may it be. And he wasn't phoning. He was phoning for, I think he was in America. He might have been in South Africa. I can't remember where he was. And he says, anyway, we'll chat in the coming days. And I thought, I couldn't see that happening. But anyway, and I think I got a call on the following Tuesday. I think Rangers drawn at home, Queen of South, 1 each, and he rung me up and asked me, would I be willing to go and speak to some of the board or whatever about maybe going into the end of the season. So I said, yeah, obviously. So it took the wind out of my sails, if I'm honest, but it was something obviously I was going to go and listen to. I think the next day, either Wednesday or Thursday, I went in and met John Gilligan. He said he just wanted to have a quick chat with me. I think obviously Goffey, Bomber, he spoke to John Brown, and I think he spoke to the gaffer, Walter, and they'd all recommended me, to go in, which, I think, he spoke to me for about an hour. I went away. Again, didn't speak finances. I'd have paid Rangers to go and manage them at that time, so it wasn't anything to do with that. It was just the opportunity to go in and try to help, really, because I knew the disharmony there at the club. Although the old board had gone, and let me state for straight away, if the old board had still been there, I would never have gone anywhere near it, even though to go and manage Rangers, it would have been hard to knock back. But it was because it was a new board, the supporters behind them didn't agree about what had happened with the old board, and I wouldn't have thought for a second ever to go work for them. So I went. I decided to go in. I think next day, the first call I got, I was in the office. I'd rung Kenny, drove up straight away. We took the training the day after. Again, I don't even think we'd signed the contracts or anything. It wasn't anything about that. But I remember sitting in the manager's office working training out, and I got a phone call, and somebody said, Walter's on the phone. I think the first words the gaffer said to me, do you know what you're effing letting yourself in for? And then just started laughing, and it was like that. But in all my time, I think, what was that? I've been in the game 35 year, it was probably the lowest morale I've ever been in a dressing room or a football club. You know, the morale was so low, the atmosphere was so poor. Even like Jimmy Bell and the staff were walking around with the chin down, the head down. Everything had been knocked out of the club. You know, the pride of it. Certainly the supporters had lost any, so I say support certainly for the players. The players had lost all confidence. The morale, as I said, was at the lowest I've ever known. So, I knew it was always going to be a difficult, but certainly one that was going to be an exciting challenge. And the first day I walk out on the training ground and I'm saying to Kenny, look, there's 6 guys out there digging the park up. What's going on? And no, they're grounds people, they're groundsmen. Because we used to drive to Motherwell and train on local parks. Next minute, all this water's going on. I thought something was sprung a leak, but no, they have the proper drainage systems and that, and the training facilities and everything about the Murray Park was chalk and cheese to what I've been used to. But it was brilliant. You can walk out from the office and watch the training going on or whatever it may be. So all them were positives coming into the environment. Was the hardest thing. And then straight away, we had to sort of change the environment and the belief and try to get the fans back on side with the players and get the club, because we still had an aim to get out of the league. And then, I remember the first game, the day after, we went out and battered Livingston, 1-1. And in fairness, it wasn't very good. We weren't very good, and probably a draw was all we deserved. The Tuesday night, we're at home to Alloa, 29,000. I mean, normally I was there at Ibrox when it was full. Again, battered Alloa 2-2. It wasn't the start we were after. I think we'd had 25 shots on target. They had 2. Scored with the only 2. And that was now Rangers had gone 5, consecutive draws. And as much as me and Kenny wanted to take the ground running and get everything upbeat, it was flat. It was down. It was depressing. We had some good players there, but just absolutely shot in confidence. Going into training, and that was our job. Myself and Kenny and the staff, Gordon Jury and Big Jim Stewart and all the staff that played, was to lift the players day to day on the training ground, so then they could go give the best out on a Saturday. And the biggest game in getting us to the playoff final was the game on the following Sunday up at Hibs. And I think the 3 games that we played at Hibs that season, we've been beaten on aggregate 9-1. We were on the back of, as I said, drawing 5 games. The atmosphere was poor, and we worked really hard on the training ground that week. We changed the system. I didn't think going to with 2 centre halves at open space of Easter Road, so we went to 3 at the back. Because in Big Zaliukas, Billy and Jig, Lee McCulloch, none of them, although decent players, had lots of pace. So we put them in a back 3 and put McGregor one wing back and Waldo the other wing back, and we went there and got a fantastic 2-0 victory. And that just seemed to change the mood of it. I remember coming off, the supporters, the players clapping the supporters, and for the first time in a long time actually feeling good about themselves. And we managed to get a little bit of momentum for a little while, and it was challenging, but the main thing was to try to change the mentality about them. Try to improve the confidence, build on things on the training park. That's all we could do. Obviously, we can't bring players in because the deadline's finished, and it going back to getting the best out of what you've got. And we did that to our absolute maximum, I felt.
Sure, you've talked about it a lot with regard to the atmosphere and working hard on the training ground. Of your first 5 games, we get obviously the couple of draws you've talked about, the Hibs victory. Then we go to we have Cowdenbeath victory and then Heart victory at home, and things are kind of on an upward spiral, but comes quickly crashing down with a bad night at Queen of the South. Did that underline to you just how difficult and did that maybe, without being disrespectful to that squad, and did that really kind of hit home to you, like what you were dealing with in terms of quality and how big a job Rangers face? Because let's be honest here, I mean, you were on it as a supporter at the time, as season ticket holder. I always felt you were on a wee bit of a hiding to nothing, because that we had been through so much from the boardroom and on the pitch that season that there was only so much that you could do. On that night in Queen of the South, did it hit home a wee bit? And what did you think in terms of, going forward, where could we go, and how could you then, having lifted the boys a wee bit in your first 5 games, how could you then go on to do it again?
Yeah, but I think that's part of it. That's probably my upbringing, about making of myself as a person. That there's no good sort of crying about what you can't change and what you can't affect, and going in there and saying, well, maybe we lack here, or maybe that's that. But you look at the squad, we've got some decent players, some good players. Confidence is low, and as you say, you need to get momentum. The 2 draws at home went great, but then we had 2 visits, and the game against Hearts. I mean, Hearts had won the title with 6 or 7 games to go this season, which was embarrassing enough for a club like Rangers. For us to clap them on, and it was a decision I got asked about. I think it was the right thing to do because they won the league. So we clapped them on, but we said to the players, we don't kick them off, but we go and try to football them off and out-football them. And we're playing against the Hearts side, as I said, they would absolutely run away with the league. They were a really good side. And we were 2-0 up going into half-time, and Big Jig gets sent off right on the half-time whistle. So we then go and play the second half with 10 men, but managed to hold on to 2-1. And the support, the atmosphere in the ground that day was fantastic. Everyone, it was like getting the Rangers back a little bit. People were really behind the players. They saw the effort they were giving. So, yeah, you could point to things and again say, oh, this is a negative, that was a negative. But at that stage, you're on and this just shows you how quickly football can bring you crashing back down to earth. Because as you say, we go to Queen of the South, we get beat 3-0 in an embarrassing performance. But it was the only game in the 10 that we do get beaten. It was the only game we lost in the league season. But it was then how quickly we can bounce back after it. No good looking at it, as I take your point. And I know there were a lot of negativity about at the time, especially after that defeat. But we had no time as a staff to be negative and to be downbeat and to fall into the sort of the morale and the lowness and everything. It was our jobs and our duty to try to lift everybody and galvanise people and still have that aim of still trying to get out of the league. So, yeah, I understand. Listen, I've got lots of pals with Rangers supporters, go home and away with them, and they were really disillusioned at the time. But I couldn't afford to feel like that. I had to be the leader of trying to galvanise things. And it was a challenge, but it was one that I enjoyed. And, even like I remember going to Dumbarton and again, you look and think, well, yeah, we had, I think Ryan Hardy played, Tom Walsh, Wee Murdo in the middle of the park. We had 3 young boys there, which could have gone to be the future of the club, in years to come. Good players. I think Ryan got 2 goals that day, and we go win at Dumbarton 3-1, and we're still doing okay, for what we've got. With confidence is coming. We've got Miller and Clark up front, who are looking a little bit of a combination. Big Harris Fukic has come into side and started scoring goals. We had those moments. We drew at Livingston. We drew at home at Falkirk, but then I think we went away to Hearts the last game of the season again. They won the league by about 20 odd points, and we go 2-0 up there. I think Richard Foster came back for us that day. He'd been out injured at fullback, and with about 8 minutes to go, Big Lee McCullough, who captained side. I inherited a team that were down in morale, but also I inherited McCullough, Boyd, Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. Yeah, 4 lads who had actually had great careers at Rangers and done well and were hurting. Boyd, his confidence was shot to bit, but he still wanted to do. Lee McCullough were getting some really, bad stick from the punters and whatever it may be, the press. But he wanted to do everything. He trained like everything he could to be the best he could. So there were still players in that dressing room. And it hurts to be said they don't care. Because like St Miller and Wallace, and like I said, the lads I've mentioned, they did care. But I remember bringing Lee McCullough on with 8 minutes to go because, 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes, I can't remember what it was, because Richard Foster, he was cramping up, he'd just come back. And unfortunately, we end up losing 2 goals in the last 6 minutes. Nothing to do with Big Lee at all. But again, it was a target. And, but that day, we knew Hibs had already were winning at Falkirk 3-0. So, even if we'd have won at Hearts, we wouldn't have finished second. But we'd gone there and we showed that we were playing against a side 20 points ahead of us. We're 2-0 up with 8 minutes to go. We have to make a substitution. Unfortunately, lose 2 late goals. But, so we still had enough in the group at the time. We still had enough good players if we could re-energise them and give them a bit of confidence and believe. And in the same time, getting the link between the fans and the people on the park. Because no matter what you say, they can be a 12-man, certainly Ibrox. Any supporters can throughout the world. But if you've got fans that are backing you and supporting you and really behind you, it can take you a long way.
The first two key rounds of the playoffs this year, obviously you won, didn't Queen of the South, and then draw Ibrox to get through. The Hibs game at Ibrox was probably one of the best games that the Rangers fans saw at home that season. And even though you then go and lose at Easter Road, that then gets you through. Can you talk us through those 4 games and what kind of shape were you in, physically and mentally, and then heading into the final against Motherwell that we'll get to in a second?
Yeah, well, there was 2 ways to look at that when we finished third. Obviously, and we saw Hibs then went away, re-energised. They went away, we saw taking videos of them away, and I think it was, I don't know if it was La Manga or Marbella somewhere, the sun on the backs, relaxing. And then we had to go and play 2 difficult games against Queen of the South. Not only physical, but mental, the pressure that was on the players. And we head down to the Queen of the South and come back with it after getting beat there 3-0 and the plastic pitch and everything. To come back with 2-1 was a great result, but only halfway stage. But then to come out, against them, I think it was 48,000. So we'd gone from having 29,000 against Alloa to having another 20,000 there in almost a full house against Queen of the South, and in a really nervy game. But we managed to see us get ourselves over the line, 1-1, and we go through. And then we come to play Hibs. And you can look at it both ways. Hibs haven't had any competitive football maybe for 10 days. We've had 2 tough games. So you're trying to spin it that we're ready. We've got lots of belief and confidence. We've been backed by a fantastic crowd. And we come out at home. And, the performance was good, but the atmosphere was tremendous. And that's, again, I think one paper reported it that, I says, the performance was that good, it gave me goosebumps, which I didn't. I says the atmosphere inside the ground gave me goosebumps, because that night against Hibs, Kenny Miller got a fantastic goal. We win 2-0. Again, this is against a side that previously, the 3 games early on in the season, we'd lost 9-1 to in aggregate. And we're there beating them 2-0. And, we still, again, knew going to Easter Road. That's 3 games we've had, they've only had 1. And we went and played the same system we did at Easter Road as we did in the game previously, 5-3-2. We sat in, we defended well, had a little bit of luck as you need. And then it was disappointing to lose a last-minute goal, but job done. We'd got through the playoff final. And that was probably the only time. I don't really show emotion a lot as a manager, never has done until I'm actually in the sanctity of your own dressing room. But it was the only time I really sort of, showed emotion and celebrated with the supporters with a fist pump. I've still got that picture to today, because it was a proud moment. I had a lot of my family in the fans behind the goal. The Hibs had restricted the supporters to only a little small section. Tried to use every advantage they could, but to know that we were sending them fans home and the fans back there happy in the thing that they've got a team that have really come to the fore and done their best, and going forward towards a Motherwell game was something to look forward to. Yeah,
it's perhaps written in the stars that it is Motherwell that you end up playing in that playoff final. Also, the home game doesn't go to plan. You end up losing 3-1. Darren McGregor's late goal gives Rangers a wee bit of hope.
Yeah.
Did you still believe going to Firth Park that it was possible? And then obviously talk us through the Firth Park game. There's the Cammy Bell mistake. There's been Leon Wojney at the end. There's Lee McCulloch, I think, get hit with a flagpole. It just all that the way that 90 minutes unravelled kind of summed up Rangers' fortunes and Rangers' season.
Yeah, it did. But to go back, to the original game, I mean, it was an absolute nightmare scenario for myself. If we could play any other side bar than Motherwell, I knew they'd been struggling the week before or 2 weeks before. They'd gone to St Mirren and got beat 3-0, and with a game to go, they knew they were going to be in the playoff spot. So they came to Ibrox refreshed, but they also came to Ibrox with a really experienced side. Players like Lasley and Hamill, fantastic servants for the club, And then they had the ex-Celtic players, Pearson, Big McManus, who I'd brought to the club, McDonald, allied with some other young players. So even though they'd had a really poor season, they still had enough experience in the side that, I think people were trying to make Rangers favourites at the time. But, we when we went into that game, I think for the first, I think the thing was, and we'd said to the staff, it was crucial. Motherwell didn't have a good away record at Ibrox. And also that season, they had a really poor away record in general. So it was crucial that we didn't have to win the tie there and that night, or we didn't have to, 3 or 4-0. But the first goal was going to be vital. Because if we get the first goal, naturally you'd think the lads, a lot of experienced players have been at Ibrox before, Laz and Hammy. I've been manager there when we got beat 6-0 once. And, you don't have many positive memories when you've gone there and not done well. So it was crucial to sort of get the first goal. And people talk about what defines careers, management careers, playing careers. I was on the bench for the England under 21s and 2 seconds away from getting on, and I didn't, and ended up going on having playing 40 caps for Scotland. So little things can define things. But that season for me, personally, not Rangers as a whole, in the 10 games I'd had and then the playoff games, was defined in a 20-minute spell. Because for the first half an hour up to half an hour, I think Motherwell had been in our 18-yard box once. We controlled the game without looking really dangerous. Lawsy had a shot, I think. Kenny Miller had bent one just wide. But we were in control, in charge of the game, and we just needed to be a bit more, dynamic in the last third. And then lo and behold, Lee Irwin breaks away, young lad who I'd give his debut to at the beginning of the season when I managed Motherwell, and hits a tammy shot which deflects off Big Darren McGregor and loops over Cammy Bell. And just when you need a little bit of luck to go for you, which we'd had in previous games, that went against us. So you 1-0 after sort of, not dominating the game, but controlling the game, being in charge of the game, not looking under any threat, to then getting to, I think it was 29 minutes to score in. And we up to then we got a bit nervy. The crowd got edgy naturally. The players got a little bit edgy. Motherwell came more into it. And then just on half-time, just as we're saying to the staff, right, we're getting there, the message is we come out. And then it's a wide free kick, a silly free kick to give away. And McManus rises all alone from a way out to head it in. And 2-0 going at half-time, which actually, was like putting a pin in a balloon. The atmosphere was just sank. It was, I don't think we got booed off, but you imagine walking into the dressing room, the morale, the despondency, the lift Motherwell had scoring on half-time. But again, the message was, again, it's nothing we can't affect what's just happened. We've got another 45 minutes and 90 minutes to go and change it. So let's go out there, be positive, be on the front foot, and let's go get back into this game. And then obviously, as we know, 2 minutes in the game, counter-attack, Lionel Ainsworth, another kid I'd brought to the club on peanuts, really, bargain basement signing, scores a wonder goal for them. And Motherwell have now sat 3-0 up in a 20-minute spell, and basically the tie's over. So, yeah, you can look back on different things. It wasn't the first leg that killed us. It was a 20-minute spell where we lose 3 goals. We come back, Darren scores one. We have 2 or 3 great chances to make it 3-2 before the end. But we come in 3-1, rightly written off, to build the lads up again for the final game. But also going in the knowledge that, again, the first goal's key. If we get the first goal at Fir Park, then we're back in it. We're back in it. I bring Boydie back in the team. We've got Boydie and Kenny Miller up front. We've got millions of goals in their careers, and certainly for Rangers. And for a lot of the early part of the game, we're on top. We just can't get a goal. But then, as we say, we go in, and I think second half, again, we're coming at half-time level. We look to go out. We need a goal. We know we need a goal. We've got to take chances. You might as well go out losing, trying to win the game. But unfortunately, Cammy just stumbles. It's an error, but it's unfortunate. It's not a glaring mistake. He stumbles and he falls and the goal goes in. But in fairness, we huffed and puffed. Did we look like scoring? No. So I won't put any blame at Cammy's doorstep. It was an unfortunate error. But were we back in the game? Were we hammering on the door to get another goal? I don't think so. In realistic terms, Motherwell were quite comfortable holding us off. We were doing everything we could. We had wide men on. We've put Walsh on for Ferguson, who come back from injury. We try to put attacking boys on the park, and then, it ended up being a result, that looked far worse than what we wanted naturally. But at the end of the day, the ambition, the aim to get back into the Premier League, had dissolved. And the aftermath of that, obviously, the big Mosney thing was, wasn't great. But it was just a horrendous, a really desperate way to finish the season for Rangers as a whole, the supporters, which they hadn't had many high times. Personally, for myself, I look back with a lot of pride on certain things and where we got to, but we just couldn't get over that final hurdle. And the 20-minute spell at Ibrox against Motherwell, for me, sort of, was a killer to the season.
Do you think those two Motherwell games cost you the chance to be Rangers manager full time and beyond the end of that campaign, or do you think it was never really a chance? It always seemed to be between yourself or Rangers then obviously going and bringing a manager in. The board decided to go with Mark Warburton. How difficult was that used to hear, or did you kind of think it was on the cards and the new board?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. I mean, nobody can say, and I would be only guessing, but I certainly think if we'd have got to the Premiership, I would have had a decent chance. But I think I had an interview the day after, actually, the Motherwell game at Fir Park with Paul Murray and another member of the board. And yeah, I know Paul certainly was really grateful in the efforts we'd done, myself and Kenny, and we got the club so close after coming in at a stage where people thought the season was dead and buried, and we believed that we'd got the best out of what we'd had with the players and everything connected to the club. And a lot of it makes me really proud. That I was a Rangers manager. I wasn't an interim. I was given the job as Rangers manager, and I was proud that every minute I walked into that club, and every time we went on that pitch and I was a manager. But even going into the season, going into the close season, I think whoever was going to come in at Rangers, it was going to be a really fresh start for them. 10 of the lads or 12 of the boys' contracts were up. And probably like Mark did, looking at it and looking ahead, Kenny Miller would have been the only one that, we would have offered a contract to, which I think was the case with Mark. But whoever was going to come in, it was going to be a great fresh start for them. It was going to be a new beginning. Like I say, a dozen players leaving. Some of the younger boys coming up. I had high hopes for Wee Murdoch, Walshy, Ryan Hardy, to try to push, and especially in the Championship level, so that they could get the ground in there and play lots of football and hopefully, to get promotion that way. But even in the close season, I got a call from Gordon Strachan 5 or 6 days after it, saying to me, right, bearing in mind I had to leave Scotland. Gordon, and I spoke to Gordon. I got offered the Rangers job halfway through the Scotland campaign, and he said to me, listen, we'll see what happens. If you get the job in the summer, great. If you don't, then you can maybe come back. So he rung me after it, and he invited me back in, which I thought was a great gesture. I'd left them, gone and managed Rangers for 2 or 3 months, and he's invited me back to the Scotland fold. And lo and behold, we were up at Mar Hall, and Dave King had flown over, and he was staying at Mar Hall, and I went and had a 2-hour meeting with Dave King to sort of put my thoughts across for the new manager, what he should be looking at in terms of players, in terms of where to go about it, in terms of strategy, and I had a real good honest chat with him. And I came away from there, and there was even in the press, it was, they were running out of options, really, I think. And I might have even still got the job on default because, they were in the Championship. There were lots of managers that would have been there if Rangers got in the Premier, I would imagine. But they were still in the Championship. It was still going to be a difficult job for somebody. But, the people that were getting targeted and highlighted, they weren't coming about, some foreign managers and coaches. So in the end, it was looking, and there was one stage, I believe Mark Warburton, he had chats with Sheffield Wednesday. He was going to go to, there was a chance that we might go to Burnley. Apparently, the rumour was, Dick Advocaat was going to leave Sunderland. Deitch was possibly going up to Sunderland. Mark Warburton was probably going to War, because at the time I think Mark, wanted to stay in England, and I think without obviously David Weir's influence, to bring him up to Scotland, probably wouldn't have happened. But obviously David, knowing what such a fantastic institution and club Rangers are, emphasised to Mark what an opportunity it would be. So in the end, when the news came through, was I surprised? Not for 1 second. Was I disappointed? Not really, because I realistically, the playoff defeat would have done me a lot of damage. But it wasn't a negative. I never looked back on it and thinking, people said, "Oh, do you regret taking that?" Because maybe if you'd have took it and got a chance at the end of the season and not spoiled it. But no, I don't. I don't regret it for 1 second. I'm the proudest person ever to play for Rangers as many times as I did, and to manage a football club. Hey, come on, it's fairy tale stuff. Obviously, just never got to do what I would have been so proud to do. But looking back, yeah, we galvanised the club again. We got the supporters back on side. We got them coming back to watch the team, and we failed at the final hurdle. And look back again, what would you do things different? If I look at the sides we picked against Motherwell, how we went out about the game, and probably, looking back at it, I can't really pinpoint anything. No, Motherwell, certainly Ibrox defended well, took the chances when they came about. They probably on paper had a far better side than us when you look at the experienced team they had. So I believe we did as possibly well as we could. I still think we had a good opportunity to get to the Premier League, but we didn't. And ultimately, I paid the price for it, but not for 1 second would I change a thing from saying yes to John Gilligan when he offered me a job the months prior to it. No, it was great times for me, proud times, and ones I would never look back on with any regret at all, other obviously than the playoff defeat.
Sure, if I could just say something here. There's a lot of questions from the fans when we said, you were coming on, and we asked guys, and they were saying, what would you have done differently? And you've answered everything. Is it possible to say this to you and not sound bad, but to actually thank you for coming in that position? Because Rangers were rock bottom. Before you came in a couple of weeks before, we spoke to Dean Shields about this, because he's been on the podcast. Rangers had been drubbed 4-0 at Easter Road, and we were rock bottom. Everything that was going on off the pitch, and struggles, and that team that we had, for you to come in and stick your head above the parapet and take that job in that situation, I've got nothing but admiration for you, because it's not mean to sound bad, it's not mean to sound, but see, from a fan's point of view, I wasn't sure that you could do anything with that squad, but I think you really did do the best you could have. And to hear you say that you had a sense of pride, and the way you spoke about it there, it's actually brilliant. I don't really know what to say. Do you know what I'm kind of trying to say?
Yeah, I get asked a lot of the time about it, and as I said before, it's just no regrets whatsoever about it. I knew it was going to be hugely challenging. And as soon as I walked through the doors, the first 2 days of training, I knew what a job we had on his hands, because the morale, as I said, in 35 years of being at football clubs, I'd never known, and it hurt me. I knew from pals and supporters, that it got low. But I think what hurt more is to see your team, your club, and the disparity between the supporters and the players, and I understood that, I got that, but the players needed in some way getting them, because we had decent players, but when your players with no confidence, where a lot of the lads, were frightened to even actually go out on the pitch, you could see. But once the games got going and we had the decent results and there was a pride in the shirt again and it was a bit more bubbly, that sort of energised myself as well, as much as anything. And I can go back to certain games coming off pitches and being proud and seeing the supporters there, seeing my pals and my family in the crowd, and thinking we're doing okay here. Likewise, on the other side, I feel so guilty and that we let everyone down in the final hurdle. And but as a whole, it was an absolute honour to be asked. As I say, I'm so sorry we couldn't do what we tried to do, but no regrets and just pride, really.
You make an important point about getting the fans on side. I was at Easter Road that day when the Rangers managed to win 2-0 and you came up to the fans and things like that. And I think that's the first point since 2012 that we certainly felt that it was getting back to where we should be. Do you, looking back on that and looking back on your spell at Rangers, and obviously you talked about the marble staircase and things like that, how different was it being Stuart McCall manager to Stuart McCall player, and under them circumstances?
I've always said, you know, the next best thing obviously playing is managing. There's no doubt about that. But it can be frustrating, a manager. You're still picking a side. You're still doing the tactics. You're making substitutions at half-time or whatever. So you've got a massive influence. But it sometimes can be frustrating that you can't actually be on the park and doing certain things that you would like. I think, as I said before, you know, leadership in football now throughout, you know, in the world, you know, you go back 10, 15 years and you look at the sides then. Don't get me wrong, there's some world-class players now. The players, the ability, the quality is probably far better. But the actual characters and the leadership is different. You know, sometimes as a player or as a manager, you would actually like to be in the thick of it and leading out on the park and getting your hands dirty, if you like. Because you do feel as though you're having a massive impact. Obviously not arranged because I couldn't, you know, bring players in. But your recruitment, as I said before, as a manager is huge. So you got your impact. You mould your team. You mould the way you want to play. The environment, for me, creating an environment that everybody wants to come to the club, from the groundsman to walk in the morning, from everybody that comes to the football club wants to get in there. For the players, when it's wind, rain, hail, whatever, they want to go in, they want to learn, they want to improve, and they ultimately want to succeed. That's the challenge for the manager, and that's part I love doing. But it can be frustrating when you can't be out on the park. So the difference, hey, listen, me managing, still walking in there, still putting a Rangers tracksuit on to go out on the training ground, it's filled me with immense pride. You know, walking out and leading, you know, the team out, whoever it may have been in the dugout. Can't match it as a player naturally. But it comes a close second.
You've had, since leaving Rangers, you've had spells at Bradford and Scunthorpe, and you're now back at Bradford as manager for a third time. We're in completely unprecedented situation now, obviously, with what's going on about the world and things like that. How are you coping as manager, and how do you look after your players, and you know, how do you manage, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know anything about Leeds. You know, everything's up in the air. So how are you dealing with this situation that's ongoing?
Yeah, just like everybody, really. We're all in the unknown, aren't we? Not just football, but the whole world itself, and we're just governed by the government and everything that goes along with it. But first and foremost, prior to obviously the horrendous virus that swept the world, I was delighted to get back into the game, and certainly at Bradford. When I'd left and come back to Bradford the first time, again we had almost but not quite in playoffs. Got to the final against Millwall against all odds. Again, I think we had a mid-table budget, and got to the playoff final. And if VAR had been in there, we probably might have gone all the way, because Millwall had the goal that was offside. But not that I'm bitter, but I always got about that. But yeah, and then obviously not so good at the time at Scunthorpe, and to get back at Bradford was good. And again, it's a huge job. It's really, they're in the bottom level again. Not great finances, but it's about doing the best you can with the resources. And we've got 9 games to go whether the season finishes, which I think it might do. When that is, we don't know. But there's so many, the finances, the loans, the contracts, how it will be done. Here and now, I think down here it definitely should finish. Up in Scotland, north of the border, it definitely should be null and void. I'm only saying that tongue in cheek, but
we all agree with you. It's all right. We all agree.
But no, I think in the fairness, certainly down here, we definitely. I think the idea would be somewhere, but we don't know the length. So if it does go on too long, it's how long do we wait? But I think the majority would like to finish the season without a doubt. We've got 9 games to go. We're 4 points out of the playoffs. I probably don't think we're good enough, but you never know. Again, it's getting out the best. We're going to have a pre-season with the players, which we've not had, because whenever we go back, we're going to have probably 3 or 4 weeks, or 2, 3, 4 weeks to get him up and running and get his ideas in, which would be good. And then we've got 9 games. But next season is the one we've got to be looking to build on probably, and hopefully have a crack at getting back up the leagues a little bit. But from a personal point of view, loving being back in the game. Certainly at a club, obviously, I've got fond memories about. But it's when you've been in football all your life, to get out on the training ground is what I love. Working with players, trying to get the best out of what we've got, creating environments and all that. And that's what I'll enjoy doing until I come out of the game again.
We obviously wish you all the best, and we'll be keeping an eye on Bradford scores. It's funny, something we spoke about on the last pod about the testimonial. Ever since going down there, strangely, I do keep an eye on the Bradford results, but certainly look forward to it now that you're back there. What I would ask you, just before we round this up, Stuart, what do you think of the job that Steven Gerrard's done now, and how far do you think that we are from making that next step and getting silverware and things?
Well, it's like anything in football, isn't it? Fine lines. If you ask this question at Christmas time, Steven Gerrard can't get enough plaudits. For me, I still think, we talk about leaders. Yeah, when Steven came in, I was very pro it. I was thinking it was a good move. I've got to say that now. I still do, because what he would do would drive standards, be it on the training ground, be it in the dressing room. He's almost managed Liverpool for the time he was there the last few years. As a captain, as a leader, you're actually managing almost. Obviously, you're not making tactical decisions. Having said that, you're the manager when you're out on the pitch. So I had no doubt about the level he would, or the standards he would set for the footballers, for the players, for the club. And I think he does that day in, day out. I think even going back to last season, I was at the game. Rangers beat Celtic just before the split. The last game that split, the break, the winter close down. And then we go and get Davis and Defoe. And I thought, great signings, 2 fantastic professionals. Unfortunately, come back, they don't get in the side. It doesn't materialise. We have poor form. This season, we managed to get Kent in. I know the boy Aribo's come up and get goals. I know him from time down here against Charlton. The signings look good. We've got a good hard nucleus of players in there that know what it's like now to be involved. And then, this season, fantastic European run again. But we get to Christmas with not only a great result at Parkhead, but a fantastic performance. Because sometimes you can win games and you can sneak them and you think, we've still got a long way to go. I think that day you looked, we're not only a match for Celtic, we're more than a match on that game's performance in the season up to then. But don't get me wrong, everyone's writing Celtic off. Celtic had only dropped points, I think, at Livingston. Celtic have still did have a really good side and a good squad. So, but I think the belief came from how well Rangers were doing. Since then, probably Stephen, certainly me, probably nobody would be able to give you an answer how come the wheels have fallen off. You can point to lots of things. In fairness to Celtic, they've just carried on. Their form has been unbelievable. Their form has been as good as bad as our form has been. Theirs has been good. Ours has been rotten. Morelos, you point fingers at him, but all over the team, the defence now, and it's just really hard to think how things can go from being so good to being so poor again. But what I would say is, this season for me was always going to be one that we would absolutely do as maximum, to win the league. But next season, of course, it sounds silly saying that. This season, we would have wanted to win it. But if we're going to give Stephen 3 years, next season is the one. And they need to come back out of this for how many games they're going to play, if they are going to play it, and finish so strongly. Win the last 7, 8 games, whatever it may be, and finish really strong. Listen, it's Celtic going to have an amazing, collapse, which I don't think anyone would see happening. So between now and the end of the season, if the games get played, it's about Rangers winning as many games as they can, rebuilding the confidence, rebuilding the faith with the squad and the players and the fans, because a lot of these players have been brought for a couple of seasons, not just brought from this season, they're brought for next. So they need to regain their belief, their quality, their confidence back. And they've got to do that to the end of the season, because next season is going to be the biggest. And we're all aware of that. Do I think Steven Gerrard's the right man? Yes, I do. I think, again, you can point at different things. And it's easy now being a manager saying, players take responsibility. I'd like to think when I look back as a player and we were poor, I would always try, and Flack was fine at the gaffer, I would always probably say, look at us first and foremost, look at your players. It's down to players. Yes, it's down to manager, I know, to formations and recruitment and getting the best out of players. But how we can go from being so good and playing so well in certain games to then being how we are at the moment, the players have got to have a long look at themselves. But also the fans have got such a huge part to play again. We can't just decide to chuck it in these players, and we've got to go out as supporters and stay together and build on what looks like going to be a disappointing end to the season if it does get finished, to then putting every energy, ounce of effort, togetherness and support for next season and come together and show what Rangers Football Club's all about.
Stuart, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you. You've given up a good few hours this morning to record the podcast and to tell us your story about your playing days. You're quite rightly in the Hall of Fame as a legend of our club. It's been a privilege having you on, a privilege speaking to you. Thanks very much for coming on.
Absolutely loved it, lads. Thanks ever so much for inviting me. It's always good to reminisce, especially about Rangers and the great days we had, and hopefully many more to come. Thanks very much.
So also a huge thanks to our host for today, Chris Jack. Chris, how did you enjoy that?
I will give it an argo window. Usually I'm just the one that sits in the background. I'm just the ideas man that comes up with the phone numbers and some of the questions. So nice to have a wee short drive in it if I change. But they're really good to catch up with Stuart. Somebody I've got a lot of time for. He's always been really good to deal with in a professional capacity. So great to get a chat and to hear some of his stories.
Yeah, his stories over both of them have been brilliant. So it's a huge thanks to Stuart and a huge thanks to Chris, obviously, for coming on. Also a huge thanks always to Stuart Franklin over at Gersnet. He's the one that edits and makes us sound good, and the usual gets us this all done and available for you guys to listen to. Also a thanks to our sponsors, Kenny's Crazy Costumes, who is the Fiend TV on Twitter. Go give him a wee follow. And also the Custom Kitchen Factory guys, I know Ali and that over there, they do a great job, and they're standing by us during this time and helping us, and they'll continue to be our sponsors over the course of next season and things like that. Get yourself on to 4LadsHadADream on Twitter, and Chris Jack as well, and let us know you're enjoying these. Let us know who you would like to hear from, and we'll try and get them on. All we can do is ask, and we do ask. We've asked all the big names. We've told them, can you come on, and we'll keep asking. I think we'll just keep pestering them, and we'll just keep doing our best to get them on. But thank you for listening. This has been the 4LadsHadADream podcast. Until next time, no nonsense, the irrelevant, and the noise.